Hi everybody, my name is Skeeve Stevens. I'm the founder and chief architect of eintellego Networks. A big thing for us today is open networking. Now, what is open networking? Open networking is like when you used to get your IBM or Dell or HP server and you could put whatever operating system you wanted to on it. That's open servers, that you choose whatever the hardware and you choose the operating system. Networking has never been like that. Networking has always been, you buy a Juniper, you run Juniper. You run Cisco, buy a Cisco, you run Cisco. And everything else like that. You had no choice in the operating system that you ran. Now, that's been the way for a long time, but things have now changed. And that's what we're calling open networking. And people might say, well, why? Well, what's that meant is that the operating system being separated from the hardware has meant that you could actually use the best of both worlds. You could use cheaper hardware with an expensive operating system or expensive hardware with a cheaper operating system. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that. So in that why, the biggest reason here, flexibility, choice, and costs. They're the big whys. Now, flexibility. Juniper is a great example. They have approached the open networking world from two angles. They've disaggregated Junos itself. So Junos, you can now just buy that and run it on someone else's switch, like a Dell. These Dells here, for example, you can actually run Junos on it. We've done it. So you're actually sitting there, logged into Junos, and it's actually a Dell switch. The other way around, Juniper have actually made an ONIE capable switch. That's the bootloader that you can use any operating system with. And so that's a Juniper branded switch that then you can go and put Cumulus, perhaps even Cisco when they disaggregate their platform, and you can turn the same thing around. So you can use whatever operating system on whatever hardware you choose. Now, that is a massive thing. Now, if you want to go cheap, you can be using an operating system that is really cheap and a hardware platform that is really cheap. So yes, the Asian countries, especially Taiwan, have made a massive move in this area. They've been, like Acton, have been pushing out amazing hardware very, very, very cheaply. To that end, some of the other players like HP, Dell, Mellanox, a lot of the players have been bringing amazing switches to the market at incredibly low prices. And this is really hurting the big boys. Prices are dropping a massive amount. Where previously you might have spent $100,000 on a Cisco switch or a Juniper switch, depending on what you were needing, you can spend as little as 10. Now, if you're shaving a few bucks here and there, I'm not that kind of guy. I don't worry about a few bucks. In fact, sometimes whether it's double or twice the price, 3-4 times the price, it's starting to get silly. But when you are 10 times the price for essentially a lot of the same functionality, something's going wrong. Now, one of the biggest, most interesting things in the market and where we've been playing with is as eintellego, right? We are Cisco, loved it for nearly 20 years. Juniper, discovered them about 10 years ago, loved Junos, it's an engineer's dream, it's amazing, right? We also have done significant deployments with Arista, like NextDC's Axon VX network, all built on Arista at the time. We've also played with a variety of other HP, whatever's been needed at the time. We are amazing engineers, and I'm pretty sure we can figure out most things. Now, one of the things that's been happening for a while, now I started the company, and I was a Red Hat certified engineer, an R8CE, for many years, and I've always loved Linux, but servers are a much more challenging world than networking. Networking is very, I was going to say simple, but it's not really. It's not simple, but it's confined, it's understood. There is a lot less risk, unlike servers, which can get a lot easier to be hacked. Hard drives and storage, my greatest fear, things crashing. Networking has very rarely been vulnerable to those kinds of things. So I kind of sat with networking. So while I knew Linux and I loved it, and I still manage a lot of our Linux boxes and I love playing with them, my engineers didn't. They were CCNA, CCNPs, JNCIAs, JNCIPs, everything else like that. I went and got some Cisco, and I'm a was a quadruple Juniper certified engineer. And while I loved it, they weren't. Normal engineers didn't play around in that space. But at the end of 2014, I told all my staff, learn Linux, learn a programming language, because the change is coming. Software-defined networking, it is coming. Not here today, not in 2016, not in a big way, not in the consumer space, enterprise space. It's not going to happen. But there's a step between there. There's orchestration automation. So that's where you start to have very interesting, amazing solutions. So a couple of things we are rolling out now. Now, open networking is just, I don't know how to say this, but I actually have joy working in this space right now. Rather than having no choice, being limited to what they sold you, I can now come up with very creative solutions. I'm going to show you a bit of hardware that just makes my heart jump. And I know you don't hear emotions and things like that in network engineering, but I am genuinely excited by this switch on top here. Later. Now, what this switch is, this is a Dell Z9100ON. Now, it looks like, so it's got 32, 40 gig ports, but they're not actually. These are multi-rate ports. These ports are 10 gig, 25 gig, 40 gig, 50 gig, 100 gig, every single port. So that switch, my dear, has capability 6.4 terabits of throughput. Every one of these ports here is 100 gig capable. Now what that means is also 40 gig ports, which means they can break out with a breakout cable to 4 times 10 gigs. Yes, 4 times 10 gigs times 32 ports. 128 10 gig ports or 25 gig ports in a 1RU box. Think of the density that you can have. This is one of the reasons that some of the elastic fabrics and networks that I've designed over the last couple of years have not used chassis-based high-density ports. Chassis that are limited by their CPU and their backplane. I would rather than a Nexus, and it doesn't have to be Dell or something, rather than a Nexus 1RU switch, I'd rather roll out one of those than their big 18RU boxes. 128 ports. 10 of them, 1,280 10 gig ports in 10RU. Most switches, rack switches, are 47RU. We're actually talking a potential of over 4,000 10 gig ports in a full rack. And this is the baby to do it. Now, I recently did some evaluation of Cisco and Juniper and Arista and a few others versus some of the open networking players in the market. This switch, sub 20K. Probably get it about 15. Who knows? And it's only going to go down. The Cisco and Junipers in this space, 100 gig, talking $100,000 to $150,000 each. I think that's a little bit unconscionable. It doesn't make sense. Right? It just doesn't make sense. These run any operating system, so you can actually run Junos on this. How does Juniper argue with a switch that is running their operating system with that many ports and that much capability? So these are a beautiful, 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 beautiful switch. I remember first seeing the switch when it came out of the box. I'm like, the most beautiful thing I've seen in a long time. It's not very often you get to see new technology, and especially things that when you start talking in terabits of capabilities. Now, we're on a big project at the moment for a customer. Here is another Dell. This is a 4048ON. So that is 48 10 gig ports with 6 times 40 gig. So, and obviously they can be broken out into 4 times 6, another 10 gigs on top of that. These are also beautiful. We get these all under 10K. Under 10K. Again, now we prefer Cumulus. We are really loving it actually. Cumulus is an amazing operating system, extremely flexible. The guys have been absolutely a blessing to work with. If with protocols, they've been asking us, what do you need? And they've been deploying it. They're listening to us. Cisco, Juniper, long burn. They'll give you what you need. You may have grey hair by the time you get it, but they will give you what you need. Hopefully. Cumulus has been absolutely amazing. They actually power the networking infrastructure, thousands and thousands of switches of the biggest cloud provider in the world. Can you guess who that might be? That's actually powered by Cumulus networks. So eintellego networks, what we've done is we've gone all into open networking. Every single engineer has been learning this. When you've got switches like this that are bringing capabilities of such scale, then I don't understand why you wouldn't do open networking. It's been Skeeve Stevens talking about open networking, eintellego networks. Talk to you soon.